When you think about how the dinosaurs died, what's the first image that pops into your head? It's probably that classic movie scene, right? A huge, fiery rock screaming down from space, a massive explosion, and then poof, the whole planet is just engulfed in flames. It's an awesome image for sure, but what if I told you that's not really what happened? The asteroid wasn't the killer. And the true story? Well, it's way, way more interesting.
So let's just ask it straight up. Did an asteroid kill the dinosaurs? For years, that's been the simple story we've all been told. An asteroid hits 66 million years ago, and that's the end of the dinosaurs. But the real scientific answer, it's much more complicated, and honestly, a lot cooler.
The answer is no. The asteroid didn't kill them. It's what happened next that did the job. You see, the impact wasn't the murder weapon itself. Think of it more like the trigger. It was just the very first domino to fall in this insane chain reaction that sent the entire planet into a crisis it had never, ever seen before.
Now, don't get me wrong, the impact itself was unbelievably violent. I mean, locally, it was absolute Armageddon. But the thing that killed the dinosaurs wasn't the heat from the blast or the shockwave. No, the real killer was the enormous cloud of stuff that got blasted miles up into the stratosphere, a cloud that would eventually wrap around the entire globe and essentially turn off the sun.
And what was in this cloud is so important. It wasn't just, regular dust. First, you had this superfine, pulverized rock that was light enough to stay floating up there for months. Then, you had soot from continent-sized wildfires that were ignited by the impact's heat. But the real game changer, the most important ingredient, was this veil of sulfur aerosols. This stuff is incredibly good at blocking sunlight, and it could hang around in the atmosphere for years.
So scientists actually have a name for this whole event. They call it an impact winter. And it's pretty much a direct comparison to a nuclear winter. The idea is the same. You block out the sun, and you cut off the planet's fundamental energy source. This wasn't just a bad winter or a chilly season. This was a complete planetary systems failure.
Okay, so just how bad did it really get? And how fast did it happen? Well, the evidence we have now suggests that within just a few weeks of the impact, the whole world was plunged into this deep, unending twilight. The data paints a picture that is, honestly, it's pretty startling.
Get this, the planet lost up to 90% of all its sunlight. 90%. For most places on Earth, the middle of the day would have looked like a moonless night. And that meant photosynthesis, the process that powers pretty much all life on this rock, it would have just ground to a halt almost instantly.
And this wasn't some quick eclipse that was over in a few minutes. This deep, profound darkness lasted for up to 2 years. Can you imagine that? 2 years without a proper summer. 2 years without any real growth. That was more than enough time for the world's ecosystems to just completely fall apart.
But here's the real kicker. It didn't even take the full 2 years to do the damage. The climate models show that just one single year without the sun was all it took to trigger a total, irreversible collapse of the global food web. The clock was ticking, and man, it ran out fast.
Now, you might be thinking, okay, it got dark, so it got cold, right? And yeah, it did get colder, but the drop in temperature wasn't actually the main thing that killed everyone. The real weapon here was starvation. The impact winter was basically a planetary energy crisis. It shut down the Earth's solar-powered engine, and everything that relied on that engine just started to die.
The whole thing was just this devastatingly simple cascade of events. It's like dominoes. First, with no sunlight, all the plants and the phytoplankton in the ocean died off. Okay, so then, with nothing to eat, the giant herbivores, your triceratops and friends, they starved. And once they were gone, well, the carnivores, like T-Rex, they ran out of food too. The entire system just imploded from the bottom all the way to the top.
And this right here explains everything about who lived and who died. The big dinosaurs were basically victims of their own success. Their huge bodies needed a constant supply of fresh food that just disappeared overnight. But smaller creatures, they could get by on things like seeds, insects, or decaying stuff, food sources that actually stuck around through the darkness. Plus, they could burrow and hide from the worst of it. Survival wasn't random at all. It was all about your lifestyle.
So after those 2 incredibly long years, the dust and the aerosols finally started to settle and the sunlight came back. But it didn't come back to the world that it left. It returned to a completely broken planet, one that was just ravaged by acid rain and total ecological collapse. The recovery was going to be a very, very long and slow process.
And one of the coolest pieces of evidence we have for this broken world is something called the fern spike. It's amazing.
In the fossil record, right after the extinction layer, we see this huge, overwhelming abundance of fern spores. Ferns are what we call disaster specialists. They're always the first plants to show up and colonize a disturbed landscape. So for decades, Earth wasn't a world of mighty forests, it was just a world of ferns.
Which really brings us to the true lesson of this whole extinction event. That popular image of dinosaurs slowly freezing to death over centuries, it's completely wrong. The thing that made the impact winter so deadly wasn't how long it lasted, it was its incredible, shocking speed.
I mean, just look at this timeline. It really puts everything into perspective. The actual killing phase was brutally quick. All it took was 1 to 2 years of darkness. That's it. But the recovery, getting things back to normal, that took tens of thousands of years, leaving this huge gap in time between the end of the old world and the real beginning of the new one.
And that right there is the ultimate lesson of the impact winter. You know, evolution is powerful, but it works over generations, helping life adapt to changing conditions. This wasn't a gradual change. This was like someone just flipped a switch and turned the sun off in a geologic instant. The whole system was shut down way faster than life could ever hope to respond.
In the end, it didn't take an eternity of darkness or a long, drawn-out ice age to end the reign of the dinosaurs. It just took one bad year. A single, lost, catastrophic year that really serves as this powerful reminder of just how fragile the beautiful, complex web of life on our planet really is.